Here's a story from Grandpa for my three favorite little girls, Emma, Ayla, and Audrey. Granddaughter Ayla recommended today's story, and I think it's a good one. It's about friendship and that thing that can too often kill a friendship, jealousy. In this story, a little porcupine named Norman is best friends with a tree named Mildred. And when another little tree starts to get too close to Mildred, Norman gets a little crazy. We sometimes call jealousy the green-eyed monster, and you can see why in the terrible thing that Norman does in an attempt to keep someone else from being friends with his best friend. And by the way, this story is written and illustrated by the same guy who wrote Mother Bruce, a book we read earlier this year. Here's the story. Norman didn't do it. Yes, he did. Written and illustrated by Ryan T. Higgins. Norman was a porcupine. Norman's best friend was Mildred. Mildred was a tree. Norman and Mildred did everything together. They played baseball. Strike one. Bounce. Chip, chip. You're right, Mildred. It is a little yellow-bellied sapsucker. I love playing tree together. Yay, you win. They're playing chess, I think, down there at the bottom. Norman was happy with the way things were. Okay, one more chapter, then it's lights out, Mildred. Norman and Mildred. Mildred and Norman. Just the two of them. Until one day, there was someone else. And who is that? It was another tree. Suddenly, it was no longer just Norman and Mildred. Now it was Norman and Mildred and the other tree. This did not sit well with Norman. Norman began to worry. What if the other tree wanted to be friends with Mildred? What if Mildred liked the other tree? What if Mildred liked the other tree more than she liked Norman? Norman kept a careful eye on the other tree. Whoosh! He watched as Mildred and the other tree grew closer. Bounce, bounce, bounce. And closer. Chip, chip. Sigh. And closer. You're playing tree without me? Life wasn't the same. Fine, you win. And then it happened. The worst thing possible. Touch. Mildred and the other tree grew too close together. It was the last straw. This is the last straw. Even though in this case there were no straws, just branches. Norman could not lose his best friend, not to the other tree. Something had to be done. Norman planned and he planned until his plan was just right. Then, under the cover of night, Norman dug up the other tree and took it far away, very far away. Very, very far away. To a place where the other tree would never come between Norman and Mildred ever again. And just like that, the other tree was gone. Norman and Mildred were back together, just the two of them. But it wasn't the same. Other tree? What other tree? Oh, that other tree. I don't know what happened to the other tree. I didn't do anything. Maybe it went on vacation. Maybe it moved. How should I know? There, Mildred, you still have me. Soon Norman started to think about Mildred without her new friend. Norman started to think about the other tree all alone out there. Norman started to think about himself and what he did. What if someone had seen him? Let's think. There was the moon, there were the stars, there was the grass and the trees. Oh no, the trees! What if they saw me? What if one tree tells another tree who tells another tree who tells another tree who tells Mildred? What am I going to do? What have I done? What if digging up your friend's friend in the middle of the night and taking that friend very, very far away was not the right thing to do? What if it was the wrong thing to do? Stop staring at me, Mildred. Drip, thud. Norman had hit rock bottom. I have hit rock bottom. Something had to be done. Norman planned and he planned again. Then he went back to where he had left the other tree to try and undo what he had done. Yes, you're right, I went a little overboard, but in my defense you were touching branches. Norman knew life was going to be different. Look who's back, Mildred. Pat, pat, pat. And that was okay. He might even like it. Norman and Mildred and the other tree. Just the three of them. And now look, there's a little squirrel in the other tree saying, "And who is that?" Just like Norman did at the very beginning of the story. And that's the end of the story. Jealousy made Norman go off the deep end in this story. Norman was too young to understand that good friendships aren't threatened by other friendships. Good friendships are made stronger by other friendships, but jealousy can really wreck a friendship if you let it. That's a lesson we all have to learn as we grow up. Fortunately, Norman realized that he did something very wrong in his attempt to protect his friendship with Mildred, and he tried to make up for it in the end. But I think that if I were Mildred, I might keep a close eye on Norman in the future. Always remember that Grandpa loves you and all your very good friends, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.